Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Basics Podcast. I am here with Dawn, and we're here to talk about the basics of plant-based nutrition. By this time, if you've been tuning in, I think you know both of us, but let's do a quick intro. So I have a background in plant-based nutrition coaching and fitness training. I have a love for both and also animals, and coming from the compassionate standpoint of there are other healthy choices out there besides eating meat. So that's where I come from. Dawn, do you want to do a quick intro about
Sh-
yourself?
Sure. My name's Dawn Hutchins. I am the founder of a company called Veggie Cooking, where we teach plant-based cooking for weight loss, vitality, and long-term health. And then I'm also the director of plant-based nutrition for a large corporate wellness program. And I am a plant-based chef, and I'm also a recent graduate of NASM. So I got my certified personal training certificate, and I'm really excited to add that in with my wellness teachings.
Yay! And congratulations again, Dawn. I know we
Yay!
were talking before about this, but that's very
Excited.
exciting. So
Yes.
opens up a lot more doors. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Last episode, we talked about fat. This episode, we're talking about another hot topic. I want to say this one's even a hotter topic. I don't know,
Mm,
maybe fat is just as hot, but protein. So obviously, we're coming from the plant-based perspective. So protein is protein, and that's what we're here to talk about. So we're excited to dive in. The first thing I want to talk about is, are people actually low on protein? And before we dive into this, it's insane because protein has become such a buzzword. And,
yeah.
throughout the years, we'll see buzzwords and, low fat and all this stuff. But protein, my goodness, I don't watch like commercials very much, but it's like, protein. We have protein coffee. We have protein food. We have protein, protein, protein. It's high protein. It's like, oh my goodness gracious. So the world really cares about protein right now. So, Dawn, are people low on protein? And I know you don't know every billion person in the
Right.
world, but in general, are people low on protein?
They are not low in protein, especially not in the United States. That is for sure. And I think maybe there are impoverished populations around the planet that could be low in protein and have sarcopenia. It may be a challenge in the elderly because they're just not eating a lot of food, period. But when it comes to protein in the average population, we are definitely not deficient in the United States. That is for sure.
And I know I in my nutrition studies I learned that it's like there's never been anyone that has been, in the records of time that's gone to in the US a doctor and it's been like, you know what, you're low on protein. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually, hey, let's get some more fiber in the diet or let's, work on weight loss. We care so much about protein, which is it's a macronutrient. It's very important, but just
Of
given
course.
that proteins and everything, it's even, in lettuce, it's a small amount, but
Right.
protein isn't everything. So it's something that we shouldn't be concerned about. I have my notes down here. We're probably going to touch on it more, but I guess since we both come from the fitness standpoint, that's what it's like. I do care about protein. I'm like, okay, how much protein am I getting? Plant based, it is a little bit harder to get protein, in my opinion, because meat is such a huge source of protein. But I prefer quality over quantity. First
Mm.
off, which you can
Mm-hmm.
get it from plants, and then also when you're fit and you're working out and you're lifting heavy, you do need to make sure you're getting enough to repair the muscles. So I
Yeah.
do care. I have my protein shake right here. On lunch tofu, and we'll get into. I won't spoil it. We'll get into foods that have higher amounts of protein. But I will say that's something like if you're fit. Or working out and lifting heavy, that you do need to be aware of protein. The
Right.
average
Right.
person doesn't need to be concerned with protein. Like you're saying, if you're getting enough calories, you're getting your protein. So do you have
Right.
anything else you want to add there?
I would say that the dietary guidelines have changed a little bit. So they were originally zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, and that
Okay.
was actually two standard deviations higher than what they believed that everybody needed. So that should likely cover everybody. But the new recent guidelines, I believe, are 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. I think the thing about if you're lifting heavy and you need to repair, you're likely getting that anyway because you're eating more calories. So
Yeah.
I actually have built an app called the Plant Protein
Mhm.
Planner to where you can plan out your daily protein and then build meals around that. So it's not really a meal planner, but it allows you to just get that skeleton of framework for here's to make sure I'm covered. It
Yeah.
is very rare that I am not hitting it just because I'm eating more food as I'm lifting. So just because I'm hungrier and I need it, like you said, for the repair. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's really something that if you're new to plant-based eating, that it can be important to focus on and understand where sources of protein come from because if you're new to it and you're just eating fruits and vegetables and not adding the legumes and the whole grains, you're likely going to be lower and you might be a little bit tired. So it is good to have a
Yeah.
balance. But we'll
Yeah,
talk more about
definitely.
that in a minute.
I know. It's like, oh, I just want to get into the foods that
Yeah.
are high protein. But yeah, like you said, if you're eating a well-balanced, variety of plant-based foods, you're most likely getting the protein that you need. And I think that
Hmm.
well-balanced part is key. And I do agree also with like being new in the plant-based space. Like if it's new for you, and you're feeling, weak and tired, it's probably you're low in calories and you're not getting enough calories because like we talked about in a previous episode, calorie density with plant based foods is so much less than meat and dairy foods. So just kind of changing how you eat. So,
That's a good point. That is a good point.
yes. So let's dive into complete protein. So I know, like, when I first well, I guess I've been vegetarian since I was 12, so, not been without meat in for a while, and became vegan 6, 7 years ago. But when I started working out maybe 12 years ago, I remember, like, trying to learn a little bit more about protein, and the whole, like, complete protein thing came up, and I was like, "My goodness, this seems so difficult. I have to get this, and I have to combine it at this time," and it was just like, why is this so difficult? Now I'm realizing it's not that difficult. So can you kind of go into detail about this whole like complete protein and how we can get that?
Right. Yeah. I think there was a lot of confusion around the whole combining of proteins. Frances Moore Lapay wrote a book called Diet for a Small Planet, where she said you need to combine beans and rice to get a complete protein in one meal. And that I think caused a lot of confusion about, oh my gosh, we have to be combining at each meal. And the only thing you need to know is that our bodies are very clever. You don't need to eat all these different combinations in one meal. As long as you're eating a variety of foods throughout the day, you're going to get what you need. The other myth is
Hmm.
that plant foods don't contain all 9 essential amino acids. They 100% do. Every plant food has all 9 essential amino acids, just in different varying amounts.
Yeah.
So when we hear that repeated over and over that they're deficient in amino acids, they are not. It's just that you need to eat a variety in order to get a good balance of the amino acids.
Hmm.
So, like, pea protein is really high in leucine. So, focusing on adding peas is going to give you the leucine part. And, I think if you want to eat rice and beans, that is absolutely fantastic. You don't have to eat them in one meal. You could eat beans at lunch and rice at dinner if you want, and your body will be able to assemble what it needs.
Yeah, our bodies are smart, like you said.
Yeah.
So just let them do what they're naturally supposed to do, and eat a variety,
Yes.
and don't worry about it. There's other things to worry about in life.
Right.
So good, that makes it easy. So why would someone want to choose plant protein over animal based protein?
Oh my gosh, there are so many benefits to adding plant proteins to your diet. Plant proteins are the only type of protein with fiber. And if you're really wanting to increase your fiber and get enough protein, it's really important to add these sources. There's also a ton of vitamins and nutrients in plant foods that you can't necessarily get in animal foods.
Hmm.
When people are worried about the whole B12 thing, we might talk about that later. B12 is is a microbe in the soil. And a lot of people that eat animal foods are deficient in B12 because there's not a lot of this microbe in the soil anymore with industrial farming.
Yeah.
So this is something that is substituted in animal feed, supplemented in animal feed. And so we as plant-based eaters would just take a B12 supplement instead of it being supplemented to the animal. And so when
Yeah.
people are like plant foods are lacking in different vitamins and nutrients, a lot of times it's just, misinformation like that being spread around.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there, which is why one of many reasons why we wanted to do this podcast so we could kind of take little baby deep dives into different topics so we could clear the air. So, thank you for that explanation. There's a lot of benefits to animal or not animal protein, sorry, to plant protein beyond just the protein. Like you said, they're packaged with a lot of other nutrients. So, now
Right.
let's get into some of the foods that are high in protein. I know we've talked about this before in a previous episode. One, I'll kind of dive in first. One of my favorites is tofu. Like, I used to think it was weird and like gross and, oh, I don't know. But when I think it was Asian food I tried it first. Now I love it. It's a staple. It's an easy one. I feel like that's almost a low-hanging fruit as far as getting your protein. And we earlier before we hopped on here, we were talking about like bean-based pastas.
Mm.
And that's an eat like red lentil pasta, crazy amount of protein. So if you were like to make a pasta dish and mix some of the tofu into the sauce or top with tofu, I mean, you're getting a lot of protein. And that's the type of meal. It's like you don't have to worry at all about getting your protein because you're getting a ton there. And I
Mhm.
know, Dawn, you are a big fan of beans, whether it's in pasta, and I mean I am too, or normal. Can you tell us a little bit more about legumes and the importance of legumes from the protein standpoint, but also from the nutritional profile standpoint?
I mean, legumes are just a very simple superfood. And if you know anything about the blue zones, that is a food that all of the blue zones have in common. And the blue zones
Hmm.
are the study of the longest lived populations on the planet that are the healthiest and longest lived populations. They
Yeah.
all have beans in common. So they might be eating different types of beans, but all of them have beans. So they're so full of fiber, they're higher in protein, they're very satiating. They have lots of vitamins and nutrients. A lot of them have calcium, iron, all these different things that we need are packaged in beans, and there's so many different ways that you can use them, which we can talk about in a little bit. But you think about like, so of course you have the soy foods, which are
Hmm.
a soybean, but then you're also going to have black beans, pinto beans, navy, cannellini, great northern, adzuki beans. There are so many. There are also lentils, which are also a legume. And those are really high in protein, and I think they're delicious, and you can use them in
Hmm.
so many different ways. There are brown, green, black, red, yellow, like so many different varieties. And then, like you said, the bean-based pasta, the edamame pasta, I think has 24 grams of protein in 1 2-ounce serving. So
Yeah.
when people are worried about not getting enough protein, it really is easy to get a variety. And there, in a culinary sense, so many different ways to use these that are absolutely delicious. So it's just a matter of maybe a little bit of a learning curve if you're not used to adding beans on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw you posted, oh, I don't know, maybe a month ago, something with edamame pasta, like all these different recipes with them. And
Yes.
I mean, I've done kind of different variations, but when you post that, I was like, ooh, there's a bunch of more ways to try it. So it's like just using one of our websites or Pinterest or just Googling, I mean, AI, there, you name it. There's so many sources out there if you guys are looking for recipes, because it's like, once you have a few that are go-to recipes, you can always add a few more veggies on top or have different fruits on side to create variation because the variety is really good. But having a few like go-to high protein meals that you like are always good. So, what I gotta know, what's your favorite legume?
I mean, of course, soy because it's just so darn versatile.
Hmm.
But I do also love lentils. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say Oh, it's really hard. I love black
I
beans, like,
know, I know.
it's really hard, but, I do really like lentils. I love lentil soup, I love making wraps with them. You could make, blend up the red lentils and make a pizza crust.
Mm.
There's just so many ways to use them, and they are so filling and so full of fiber and protein. Um, and I just think they're really delicious. And I actually recently came across this lady at a farmer's market selling these like organic marinade kind of things. And one of the options she had was this just a cold lentil salad with
Ooh.
like onions and peppers. Oh my gosh, it was so delicious. I ended up buying all three of her marinades because every one she had was so good.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yes, and, but the lentil one was so delicious, so I said, "I need to know what you put in here," and she said, "I just put whatever I had with lentils in my refrigerator," so I just threw all the vegetables I had on hand. I was like, "Well, that's easy." So just you can eat them cold, there's just so many versatile ways you can prepare lentils, so I would say past the soy, I would say lentils. What about you?
Mhm. Soy, of course, but past that, I would say black beans or pinto beans.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
too yeah, I
Yeah.
too do love words are, like, hard today for some reason, lentils, but I would say black beans or pinto beans are probably my go-to. I do like chickpeas sometimes if they, like, mess with my stomach a little bit, so I
Mm,
try to be mindful of those, and I guess that's a good note. Everyone's different 'cause,
that's so true.
sometimes certain things might not agree with you. But yeah, I mean, I'll get some weird beans at the international store, weird to me, and try them out. It's like it's fun. There's such a variety. There's so many out there. So I encourage you to give them all a try. I do want to touch on before we move on to the next topic, as far as high protein foods. Next episode, we're going to be talking about whole grains, but it is worth mentioning whole grains do have a good amount of protein too. Brown rice, quinoa. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a lot. I don't know if you want to add anything as far as other foods or other whole grains that are high in protein that you want to talk about.
I think, usually people mention quinoa. I don't know that I would use that as a main protein source, but, I definitely like to add it as a higher whole grain for
Yeah.
the fiber, a little bit of the additional protein, the added vitamins and nutrients. Um, but and it is delicious and versatile. So a lot of times and it's quick cooking. So if you come
Yeah, that's true.
across a recipe that has white rice in it, it is a great quinoa is a great substitution for that because the cook time is very similar, and then you're getting the additional
Mm,
fiber and protein in there. So next episode we'll be talking about whole grains, but um that's a really good substitution that I make for a little bit of additional protein. But I usually don't use the whole grains as a main
same, yeah.
protein source. I add it for all of the other health benefits and the massive amount of fiber.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just get the boost of the little bit of added protein from those.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's I kinda complement my meals. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, sweet, it's gonna have more protein now," because,
right.
I mean, I love quinoa. I've grown to really like it, and it's an
Yeah.
easy one. There's so many
So
health benefits
easy.
there, so
Yeah.
it's like I'll have some cubed tofu and, some split peas, some quinoa, and veggies, and it's like, "Alright, I'm feeling good about this meal." So
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
will say, protein shakes, we've talked about protein shakes before. I feel like there's mixed reviews as far as adding them or not adding them. I know both of us have protein shakes. I'm a big fan because I like the taste. I recently switched to a new brand and it's very, very clean. The other one brand was too. But the new brand I use, I mean, I think it's like quinoa, brown rice, pea. It's like very new, natural sources. But I mean, my breakfast almost every single morning as a protein shake because I just like it and it's easy. And I'll add my peanut butter powder,
Mhm.
creatine, soy milk, bananas. So it's like, it depends. I mean, it's not as whole food, obviously, because it's ground into a powder and some of it's more processed. And there's a lot of unhealthy protein powders out there. But if you like the taste, I mean, by no means do you need to add it. But if you like the taste and you want to add it, it's a
Mhm.
good thing to add.
Yeah, I think you absolutely can do a whole food plant-based diet. that is higher in protein without doing protein powder. But you think about that's not really a reason to say, I'm not going to eat a whole food plant based diet because you have to eat protein powder. You don't have to. You can absolutely get enough protein. I like to add it because I do find that I enjoy it and I only use a little. Sometimes I use half a serving a day.
Mhm.
Um, and it does kind of help with the satiety factor. If you get a plant-based protein, it also has fiber in it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, you can use it or not use it. I think it's important to know where it's coming from because a lot of them have tested high for heavy metals. So it's
Yeah.
important that they have a third party verification that it doesn't have heavy metals, but it can be part of a plant-based diet, and especially if you're lifting heavy and you just want an easy way on the go, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm not against it.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Mhm.
glad you mentioned some of those details as far as, like, looking for third party tested and you know what I mean, and kind of knowing where you're getting your protein powder from, so those are good notes, and I guess, yeah, if you have any questions about protein powder, I think both of us would be happy to share the ones we like, but we won't push it on you guys, so,
Mhm.
alright, before we wrap up here, I do wanna talk because we both talked about soy a lot, and there's a lot of myths out there about soy. Because 'cause I'll tell people, I love my tofu and my soy, and they're like, "You're gonna get cancer. Oh my gosh, soy is horrible for you," and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my goodness gracious. So, Dawn, can you clear up some myths? And this is based on, scientific research that you've studied. It's not just saying, nah, it's good. Eat it.
Mhm.
Like, what's the the findings that you've found?
Yes, I overall that soy is absolutely safe and beneficial. In fact, it has a lot of cancer fighting properties. And it fights prostate cancer, it fights heart disease. There are so many benefits to it. um I always go back to one of the longest lived populations on the planet and in Okinawa, and soy foods have been one of their main staples of their diets for, centuries. So
Yeah.
they have very low rates of cancer, breast cancer, and there were some studies that were misrepresented, totally blown out by the media, and it caused a lot of fear mongering around soy. So, soy has phytoestrogens. It's not a mammalian estrogen, it's a plant estrogen. And so we actually find that it will bind to the receptors and block um some of the let's see, how do I say this? I may need to cut this section out because I'm trying to think through. It binds to those receptors and it blocks some of the cancer causing agents. We may not want to add that in there,
That's fine.
but soy is a phytoestrogen, which is a plant estrogen, and I think if we're worried about estrogens in our diet, we really need to be worried more about dairy because
Hmm.
that is a mammalian estrogen. The only way we get dairy is by a cow being pregnant and then drinking her breast milk or eating cheese or ice cream made from her breast milk, which is full of estrogen and hormones. So
Yeah.
I always wonder, why are we talking about plant estrogen, which does not act the same in our body and has very many protective qualities, and then we aren't worried about all the dairy in our diet. So I always think
Yeah.
that's just a little something interesting to consider.
That's media for you. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's like so much of the misinformation is just how the media wants us to perceive it. So I
Mhm.
know from nutritionstudies.org, I've read countless studies about soy and it not being harmful. And like you're saying, it's estrogen from plants, not from animals. So
Right.
soy is safe from everything we've researched and understood. And thank goodness because wow, it's tasty and very versatile. I mean, you can
Very versatile.
make tofu taste like all kinds of crazy stuff. So, thank goodness for that. All right. So, today we went over protein. You can most definitely get all the protein you need from plants and get lots of other nutrients. You can get the complete protein Soy is not bad for you. I'm trying to sum up everything here. All in all, we don't need to be so worried about protein, thank goodness. But the media, again, going back to the media, they oftentimes want us to think otherwise. So, and advertising, I mean, protein coffee, protein, extra protein sandwiches, it's just how things go. So, don't worry about protein. I guess that's what I want to leave you with. Dawn, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with today?
I think the only thing I would add are just some really simple protein substitutions that you could do to kind of shift from animal protein to adding more plant proteins. Lentils in place of ground meat,
Mm,
tofu scramble instead of eggs,
mm.
quinoa instead of white rice, like we talked about. You can use soy milk over dairy, like we also talked about, and use those bean-based pastas because they're so high in protein and so filling. Oftentimes, they are filled with fiber. You may not even be able to get through a serving, they're so filling.
True,
So,
yeah.
those were definitely some of my favorite substitutions, that are even if you're not wanting to go 100% whole food plant-based, those are just some great shifts to make to add more plant foods into your diet.
Love it. And the tofu scramble has been like my go-to lately. It's so
Yes,
easy.
me too.
And I was gonna say I know I have a recipe for it on my site. I am you might as well. But that's just like such an easy one because I've been very busy lately and it's like, okay, tofu scramble again it is. So
Yeah.
um
And it's easy to meal prep too. I actually just did scrambled 2 blocks of tofu, and it's so easy because you just saute the vegetables, add some seasonings. I crumble the tofu in, cook it up in a skillet, and then I made kind of a nacho cheese sauce out of,
mm,
I use sunflower seeds and, almonds that I blended with all of the kind of nacho seasonings and
yeah.
instead of cashews, because my daughter is allergic to cashews. And you can wrap that in portions and tortillas and freeze it so that you have a little breakfast burrito on the go. And I used a super firm tofu and an extra firm and kind of mixed those 2 together. So, just yeah, really high in
Mm,
protein, great for on the go, and so easy.
that sounds delicious. Now I'm hungry.
I know, me too. I'm ready to have some of my scrambled tofu in the
Yeah, I was
freezer.
gonna say, we're literally just talking about food, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm hungry." But, alright, thank you guys so much for joining. Next episode, we'll be talking more in depth about whole grains, so make sure to stay tuned. We will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.